Hi, Liz Eglin here. Today I just wanted to run teachers through some different ways to use Microsoft Office 365. First of all, you have to have an account. And once you have that, you have to make sure you are logged in. And then depending on where you want to go, you're going to have all your apps here. Remember, you can also click on these all apps and then install certain apps that you want that you might not have. They might not all just be there, so just be aware of that. But there's some different ways to navigate. So let's say I want to go to Microsoft Forms because I want to make a test or a survey. If I want to make a quiz, all I'm going to do is go to quiz, and then your questions here. You're going to put your title in here. And then you are going to put your directions in the description. I usually say this is open book, this is for these chapters, here's a reference here. And then you're going to start adding your questions. If it's multiple choice, it will auto grade for you. Just make sure you pay attention to down here. For multiple choice, I usually make these about 1 point. Do not want multiple answers, but I do want them required, so I hit that. If I want to do an essay, all I do is click on text. I do usually click on long answer. I might want to adjust that. Now this would be something that you have to auto grade later on. Okay, but basically you can move the questions up and down if you want to using these arrows and kind of switch things around. And then when I want to give this to coworkers, I'm going to click on this, so if they want to change something about the test, they can. If students are going to take this, I go over and I copy, and I usually put this in student class notes or email it to them. However, you can do, a QR code that they can scan if they're taking this on their phones. But now I realize that they can also take the test in Microsoft Teams. Okay, so I'll just show you what I mean here. So I just set up my Teams yesterday, and students received a link inviting them to the classes. And I'm going to use this as my sample. Okay, but I could actually go in through Forms and just make my quiz here, which I think I would do in the future, or I can get a previous quiz that I made and upload it here and then fill in the information and then assign that, okay, to students, and then they would get, I'd assume, a link from their end. I'm not quite sure, and then that date would be in the calendar app. And perhaps we could even chat about the quiz. But just the main thing I wanted to go over was Onenote. And this again is embedded in Forms, which is really cool. So if I want to go to student, I want to kind of get out of this. So I'm just actually I don't want to embed anything in. I'm going to go to Teams, and I want to go to 2 is kind of my sample class. But if I want to go to the class notebook, I can put the test link here. I can put anything I want in here, and I'm not used to going in this way, but just to show you how you would distribute to a class. So you type, or upload or put whatever links you want in a class notebook. So I usually have one that is just for me, and then from there I distribute into student notebooks. And this one doesn't have one because this is just a sample, but let's say I was wanted this in the practice work, or let's just say I want that in the giver, I would distribute into them. Now I don't have any student notebooks, so that's not going to work, but then it's going to look like this, welcome to class notebook, and then that document will be in the student notebook within Teams. Now if I'm not using Teams and I'm just using OneNote, actually class notes, let me just kind of show you, then this is where I used to go in before using Teams. And again, I always had a sample just for myself that I would keep each year. And really the best way to use this is just to go in and play around with it, and you can see that for each unit I have a folder. Okay, and so this is a sample of what I would distribute to students. So all I do is go to class notebook, and then I would distribute. I can distribute to just one student. Usually I just would distribute the page to the whole class, and then I can also set up folders. So each one of these is a folder. And again, this is just my notebook. There's no students in this one, but it's cool because you can click on all the tests and kind of see what they see, and then you can put different links in it, different enrichment work, into that they can click on. Now also teachers can go into these notebooks. However, I'm just finding in Teams there is an assignment feature that I think is going to be a lot easier, because doing that in class notes, when I've gone in to check journals and then I end up writing a response, and there's you can put in stickers and things like that, it takes a lot of time. So I think the assignment feature is going to be really nice. But students can, when they go to draw, they can highlight, they can check. Now if they don't have a stylus or a pen, they just have to use the mouse pad. And again, there's a lot here for math that you can do that I have never used, but you can adjust that. And then when you want to go back to text, you hit this right here. Now I will just very briefly talk about one of my favorite things in Microsoft 365 previous to using Teams was the Immersive Reader. So if I want to, okay, so this would just be, I'm going to kind of get back here a little bit. It says tell me what you want to do, so I'm just going to see what happens if I type in Immersive Reader. So it comes right up, and then it's going to switch me over to the Immersive Reader. And again, this is really cool. It basically reads anything to students, and there's some really cool settings over here. You can switch the font, you can switch the text size, and then I always like to have the grammar highlighted, but it can also break it up into syllables. And then this kind of shows you the preferences to read. I really like this one line because it will basically just go line by line, and I'll just kind of...
Directions. Please open the text to P141 or use this PDF version.
So it will read the whole document to students. Now again, when you're in a document reader, a lot of times these are terrible because it will go through and read every single one.
Read your independent.
So you might want to show students how to kind of click ahead. But when I know they're going to be using that, I'm going to, avoid using any, web entries like that, because it will slow them down. And then it's actually kind of funny when it's repeated. It will repeat all of that. So again, just like in the Microsoft training, it will read everything in the screen reader. So again, you just want to start being kind of careful about it if you're going to mention that to students. But it's under View, and all they do is click on Immersive Reader, and again, it will just start reading it to them. Now, you can also play around with the voice settings. I personally would try to avoid showing this to students, because they really will start playing around with it, and then they start doing, things like this. And again, that's not good. So again, you can show them that, but again, cautionary tale, they're going to spend some time playing around with that. They can also click on the blue words and it will pronounce them. Now again, it is a computer voice, so some of the words might sound a little strange. And again, they can do the spacing any way they want. And they might have to kind of play around with it a little bit. You can make the text bigger, you can have the background a different color, turn off the formatting there. Okay, so there's a ton of different things you can do.
Showed a pale, square-jawed face with keen eyes and a lip.
Again, it's just something I thought I'd mention because it can be great just as a backup for students. So that is all I'm going to show you today. Again, there's a lot of other features in Microsoft 365, but I really just want to focus now on learning how to use Teams, which is new to me, and trying to create some assignments. I started to create one yesterday, and then I went back and I ended up deleting the entire thing. So now I know not to do that again. And again, this is a learning process. There's always new things added in Microsoft 365. So even when I think, I'm pretty good on using it, then again, a new feature comes or something changes, and luckily I think all of those changes have been for the better. So thanks for listening. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and of course, to keep getting updates, you want to hit the bell and subscribe. Thanks again.